Well, fall's here, and before you know it, we'll be trucking in the snow again. And for lots of you guys that have to do a lot of mountain driving and chaining up, I've got a new little trick for you. Now, I'm sure most of you know by now that GP Transco is a good place for company drivers to work. But did you also know it's a really good place for owner-operators? They've got an owner-operator calculator on their website where an owner-operator can go and project his expected pay, and he's going to find out that it's 25% above the national average. Check it out, and check them out at gptransco.com. For drivers that run the mountains steady in the wintertime and do a lot of serious mountain driving, they generally use triple chains. And triple chains can be hard and heavy to install. A friend of mine that runs the mountains constantly and runs triples came up with this slick trick. He's a mechanic, he's a heavy truck mechanic, he's a sharp guy, and I tried this trick and it works pretty well. Let me show it to you. So these are a serious set of triple logging mountain chains. And you can see they've even got the cleats welded onto the links to give them extra grip. Now what I want to focus on right here is how I want you to throw them onto the truck in the first place. This link needs to be on the far inside of the dual. This will just be a blank that you can hook up, and this is the adjusting link for tightening down the chains. So when we end up, this has got to be on the outside of the outside tire. So these triple chains, because they're so heavy, they're pretty hard to install, and the easiest way I found over the years is to fold the back side over to the front side. My God, these things are heavy. I've forgotten how bad they were. Put the center link down between the tires and then flop the far side over. That'll give you your exercise for the day. On these particular chains with the cleats on them for traction, you want to make sure that the cleats are facing up so they're gripping into the snow rather than down and digging into the tire. Once you've got the chains centered well over the duals and got them all straightened out so the cleats are on the upside and you're happy with the spread between each row of bars, it's time to move to the next step. Make sure you've got the tires blocked, front and back, so the truck doesn't roll, because the next thing we're going to do is release the brakes. Next step, release the brakes and dump the air suspension. Next step, take a small hydraulic jack, and these aren't expensive. This is a 12-ton jack. You can buy them anywhere, and we're going to put it underneath the leaf here so we're not interfering with the nuts in the airbag, and we're going to pump the truck up. So the wheels are now off the ground, up in the air. Connect the outside rail and connect the inside rail. And the bugger of a one always to hook up is the center one. But now, with the outside, the inside hooked up, the chains won't fall off, and you can just roll the tire until you find the center link, snug it all up, and connect it. So once you've got the center link hooked up, now you can go around the tire and rotate it, spacing everything evenly, making sure all the cleats are the right side up. Space the thing so it's all nice and even all the way around the tire, and then you can tighten them up again. There, I managed to gain a couple links on that tire. They're tight all the way around. I'm happy with it. I might take on another link inside. But once you've got the chains tightened to where you're happy, you can let down the jack and put it back down on the ground. If the chains are loose and flapping, you can do damage to the tires or the fenders or the struts underneath the trailer, the cross members. You don't want that. Finally, to make sure the chains are extra snug, use a bungee strap or some carp cords to tighten them down even further. Once you've done a good job and the chains are secure, you can go ahead, set your brakes, remove the tire blocks, and reinflate the bags. Now, doing something like this will save you multiple steps and stops further down the road. Ordinarily, when you chain, you have to roll ahead a couple hundred yards, tighten them down, drive a quarter mile, tighten them down again, and in all those little periods, the chains can walk out of place on you. This step, as simple a trick as it is, will save you stopping and starting and stopping and starting, and it's also a good way to get the chains off when you're done with them. Just jack up the truck, roll the tires to where you want them, and undo the chains, drop them on the ground, and you're good to go. Just a few important safety reminders here. Number one, it's never really a good idea to get underneath the truck unless you absolutely have to. So sometimes if I need to rearrange a chain that's underneath the truck, I'll use my tire hook to drag the chain to where I can reach it so I'm not crawling underneath the truck. The second thing is, if you're going to be underneath the truck, make sure the wheels are blocked. Very important. All sorts of guys have been injured and killed because the wheels weren't blocked and the truck rolled back on them. I've got a great chaining up story for you from my past. Years and years ago, a friend of mine, Wayne Hunter, and I were headed westbound. We were each in our own trucks. We were pulling B trains. We were headed west, and we got up into the Rogers Pass, and the Rogers Pass was bad. And back then, they didn't shut down the hill and make you chain up. You just went as far as you could, spun out, and then put on your chains. That was how they did it back then. So Wayne was in the lead. He got, a third of the way up the hill, and he spun out. I was able to scratch my way around him and get up maybe another quarter mile or so on the Rogers Pass going west before I lost it and spun out. So there I was, anchored the truck, chained it all up, and started crawling up the hill in first gear, walked it up slowly and got it rolling and walked it up. Now in British Columbia, to prevent avalanches, they bring the army out, and the army sets up a small cannon basically and shoots a shell into the side of the avalanche and brings the avalanche down on purpose so they can then plow it out and clear the road. So I scratched my way up to the top of the Rogers Pass, and there was the army. They had their guns set up, their cannon, and they were ready to shoot, and they said, "Are you the Richardson truck that was spun out on the hill?" I said, "Yes, I was." The soldier turns around and says, "Okay, Corporal, shoot." And I didn't have a chance to say, "But my friend is still down there chaining up." The guy let off the shell. He shot it into the avalanche. The avalanche came down across the road. It wasn't a big one, thank God, but it was up to the rims. And they reburied Wayne's old truck. He'd just gotten going. He saw the snow coming. He was in the truck, and it knocked him over about 3 or 4 feet sideways. That's how hard the avalanche hit. He was 110,000 pounds. Knocked him 3 or 4 feet sideways, and he was stuck again. And he was so stuck that time that they had to send a D9 cat from Revelstoke to chain up to him and pull him the rest of the way up the hill. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this neat little trick that my friend Scott has come up with. If you're into serious mountain driving, you might want to try this out for yourself to see how it works for you. Remember always though, when you're chaining can be a dangerous thing, so be careful and don't be lying out across the road where somebody else can run over your legs. Take care, keep the rubber side down, always remember to be safe when you're chaining. I'll see you on the backhaul.